Captain David Webb stifled a sardonic chuckle as derisive alien laughter crackled over the comms, the sound echoing through the cramped bridge of his tiny scout ship. The arrogant Breen on the massive warship Devourer were mocking his vessel's diminutive size compared to their own, having no clue of the nasty surprise his ship concealed that would soon wipe the smug smiles off their scaly faces. Unknown vessel, your ship is pathetically small and weak. Leave this sector immediately or be destroyed. Captain Draco of the Breen snarled over the comm, baring his fangs. David keyed the comm. This is Captain Webb of the Earth ship Hornet. We detected your distress beacon and came to assist. We are on a peaceful mission. Peaceful? Ha! There will be peace when you depart or are blasted to pieces. Draco spat. A distress signal? Are you so gullible to fall for such an obvious ruse? That beacon only exists to lure in fools like you to plunder. David's fingers danced over his control console, urgently but subtly, sending instructions to his ship AI. Draco, I must warn you, if you attack, you gravely underestimate our capabilities. Human technology is far more advanced than... Enough prattle. You expect me to believe your minuscule ship is superior to our mighty warship? I will not tolerate such an insult to the Breen. Prepare to be annihilated, human, Draco roared as he cut the comm link. The Devourer ponderously rotated to face the Hornet, its hull bristling with weapons turrets and missile pods. A blue plasma bolt streaked past the Hornet's cockpit. A warning shot. Steady, David murmured under his breath. Steady. He opened the comm channel and spoke with feigned desperation. Wait, Draco, wait. Perhaps we can reach an arrangement. I am open to surrendering myself and my ship if... So the human shows his true cowardly colors. You finally realize resistance is futile. Prepare to be boarded and enslaved, Draco crowed. A dark smile crept across David's face. Deploy antimatter torpedoes. Before Draco could puzzle out David's words, a volley of a half-dozen metallic cylinders silently launched from the Hornet's hull. The torpedoes speared toward the Devourer. Confusion flickered across Draco's face, rapidly replaced by a look of sheer horror as he realized far, far too late that he had badly underestimated the capabilities of this tiny human vessel. The torpedoes slammed into the center mass of the Breen ship and detonated, matter meeting antimatter in a cataclysmic explosion. The blasts tore through the Devourer's hull like tissue paper, shredding bulkheads and vaporizing decks. A miniature sun bloomed as the artificial singularity powering the alien ship destabilized and ruptured, utterly consuming the once mighty vessel in a blinding flash that momentarily outshone the system's star. Your arrogance was your downfall, Draco, David whispered solemnly as he watched the dwindling plasma fireball that had once been the pride of the Breen fleet. He had witnessed this scene play out too many times before. Brash aliens dismissing humanity's unassuming ships and technology, only to be stunned by their superior capabilities in battle. Each crushed foe was another harsh lesson to the rest of the galaxy. Never underestimate the humans, no matter how small their ships may appear, for their wits and weapons are sharper than any in known space. David exhaled and plotted a course back to Earth to report on this latest skirmish. He knew it was a victory, but a hollow one. How many more aliens would have to die before they learned not to trifle with humanity? As he accelerated to FTL, David was certain of one thing. This would not be the last battle against a hostile species for him or humanity. Not by a long shot. David barely had time to catch his breath after the tense confrontation with the Breen before he was summoned to an emergency briefing with Earth Command. As he strode into the briefing room, he was greeted by a room of stern-faced admirals and generals who immediately erupted into applause. Admiral Johnson, the grizzled commander of Earth's space fleet, stepped forward and gripped David's hand. Captain Webb, your decisive actions in neutralizing that Breen warship were nothing short of heroic. You've struck a powerful blow against our enemies and sent a clear message that humanity will not be cowed by alien aggression. David nodded humbly. Thank you, sir. I was just doing my duty. But I fear this is only the beginning. The Breen will not take this defeat lightly. The Admiral's face darkened. I agree. In fact, Word of your victory has spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Some see it as a beacon of hope, others as a dangerous provocation. We must be prepared for the repercussions. As if on cue, David's communicator chirped. Captain, there's an urgent message coming in on a secure channel. It's not like anything I've seen before, his communications officer reported, her voice tinged with confusion and alarm. Patch it through to the briefing room, David ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a shadowy figure with piercing violet eyes. Captain David Webb of Earth. I am Crux of the Kraloth. We must speak immediately. Meet me at these coordinates in exactly 1 standard hour. Come alone. The transmission abruptly cut off. The room burst into a frenzy of chatter. The Kraloth? What could they want with us? They're even more reclusive and enigmatic than the Breen. David held up a hand for silence. I don't know, but I intend to find out. Admiral, with your permission, I'll take a shuttle and meet with this Crux. The Admiral frowned. I don't like it, Webb. It could be a trap, but you've earned the right to make that call. Go, but be careful. We can't afford to lose you. 1 hour later, David found himself in a dimly lit corner of a seedy bar on a remote outpost, face to face with the mysterious Crux. The Kraloth was humanoid, but with scaly indigo skin and those unnerving violet eyes. Crux leaned in close. Captain Webb, I'll be blunt. Your victory over the Breen has drawn the attention of some very dangerous players. My leader, Zorlax, sees your species as a threat to his plans for galactic domination. David's eyes narrowed. And what are those plans exactly? Crux chuckled darkly. Zorlax has been manipulating various alien races, pitting them against each other, sowing chaos and discord. The Breen are merely his latest pawns. He seeks to weaken any potential rivals to Kraloth supremacy. David's mind reeled at the implications. A shadow war between alien powers, with humanity caught in the middle? It was almost too much to process. Crux continued. But not all Kraloth agree with Zorlax's agenda. There are those of us who believe our species should coexist peacefully with others. We want to forge alliances, not conquer through subterfuge and violence. David eyed Crux warily. And why should I trust you? This could all be part of Zorlax's plan for all I know. Crux spread his hands. A fair point, Captain. But consider this. If I wanted to deceive you, why reveal the existence of my faction at all? I'm offering you an opportunity to counter Zorlax's machinations. David considered for a long moment. The risks were enormous, but so were the potential consequences of inaction. All right, Crux, I'll work with you. On one condition. You share any intel you have on Zorlax's next moves. If I'm going to put my crew in danger, I need to know what we're up against. Crux nodded. Agreed. In fact, I have information on Zorlax's most audacious scheme yet. He plans to steal a prototype doomsday weapon being developed at a secret Terran research base. If he succeeds, he could hold the entire galaxy hostage. David's blood ran cold. My God, we have to stop him. Give me the coordinates of that base, Crux. My crew and I will beat him to the punch and secure that weapon before he can get his claws on it. As David raced back to his ship, he knew he was plunging headlong into a shadowy game of galactic intrigue, where the lines between friend and foe were blurred. Could he trust Crux? There was no way to be certain. But the alternative, allowing a megalomaniacal alien to acquire an apocalyptic weapon, was unthinkable. He briefed his crew on the bare essentials, a covert mission to safeguard a critical asset with the fate of Earth and the galaxy in the balance. As the ship hurtled toward the secret Terran base, David could only hope they weren't too late, and that his newfound Kraloth ally hadn't led them into a deadly trap. The stage was set for a high-stakes struggle in the shadows, as David and his crew raced to foil Zorlax's plans and unravel the Gordian knot of his machinations. In this great game of secrets and lies, the future of humanity and the cosmos itself hung by a thread. David's heart pounded as he stared at the pulsing orb of the doomsday weapon. The vault's thick metal walls seemed to close in around him and his crew. Zorlax's forces were moments from breaching the final barrier. "We can't let them get it," Crux hissed, his violet eyes blazing with intensity. "The galaxy will burn if Zorlax obtains this power." Lieutenant Chen's voice cracked as she spoke. "But sir, if we detonate it here—" David cut her off. "I know, but we're out of options." The vault door groaned as Zorlax's troops attempted to force it open. David locked eyes with each member of his team. He saw fear, perseverance, and grim acceptance reflected back at him. "Crux, arm the weapon, that's an order." The Kralath rebel nodded and began inputting the complex sequence of codes into the orb's control panel. Its pulsing quickened, bathing the vault in an eerie, otherworldly glow. With a final screech of protesting metal, the vault door burst open. Zorlax's elite guard poured in, weapons blazing. David and his team dove for cover behind equipment consoles. "Stop them!" Zorlax's guttural roar echoed through the chamber. "The weapon must be mine." David's crew returned fire, but they were badly outnumbered. A plasma bolt caught Ensign Rodriguez in the shoulder. He cried out in pain, but kept firing. "Crux, the status!" David shouted over the din of battle. "Almost there!" The Kralath's fingers flew over the controls. An automated voice blared from the orb. "Warning! Critical mass approaching. System-wide destruction imminent." Zorlax howled in rage. He vaulted over a fallen guard, his eyes wild with desperation. "No! I will not be denied!" David saw the Kralath warlord lunge for the detonator. Time seemed to slow. He raised his weapon, knowing he'd be too late. But Crux was there in a flash, tackling Zorlax to the ground. The two aliens grappled furiously as the countdown reached its final seconds. A blinding flash erupted from the orb. David felt the fabric of reality tear around him. The vault, the base, the entire planet, all of it unraveled in a maelstrom of unimaginable energy. In that last fraction of a second, David's eyes met Crux's. No words were needed. The Kralath's sacrifice had saved them all. Then oblivion consumed everything. David blinked, disoriented. He was on the bridge of his scout ship, claxons blaring. Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through his confusion. "Captain, we're clear of the blast radius, but barely. The entire system. It's just gone." David stared at the view screen in mute horror. Where moments ago a vibrant star system had existed, now there was only a roiling mass of energy, slowly dissipating into the void of space. The bridge crew stood silent, the magnitude of what had transpired sinking in. Billions of lives snuffed out in an instant, entire worlds erased from existence. Yet the alternative, Zorlax with that power, would have been unthinkable. David's voice was hoarse as he spoke. "Plot a course for Earth. We need to report what's happened here." As the battered scout ship limped away from the cosmic graveyard, David addressed his shell-shocked crew. "Crux told me something before the end. Some battles require the highest price, but we must never flinch from paying it to keep evil at bay. Remember that. This victory came at a terrible cost, but our fight isn't over. The Kralath are still out there, and we must be ready." The ship accelerated, leaving behind the remnants of destroyed worlds and carrying with it the weight of an awful burden. As David's scout ship emerged from the jump gate, the familiar blue orb of Earth loomed before them. But instead of the warm welcome they expected, a fleet of Terran warships surrounded them, weapons primed. "What the hell?" Lieutenant Chen muttered, her fingers hovering over the ship's controls. The comms crackled to life. "Scout ship Intrepid, power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. This is not a request." David's brow furrowed as he exchanged worried glances with his crew. "Comply with their orders," he commanded, his voice steady despite the confusion roiling in his gut. The ship shuddered as the docking clamps engaged. Moments later, the airlock hissed open. Heavily armed Marines stormed onto the bridge, their weapons trained on David and his crew. "On your knees! Hands behind your head!" the lead Marine barked. David raised his hand slowly. "I demand to know what's going on here. We've just returned from a critical mission." The butt of a rifle slammed into his back, cutting him off and forcing him to his knees. Cold metal cuffs snapped around his wrists. As they were marched off their ship, David caught sight of Lieutenant Chen's face, contorted with a mix of fear and rage. Ensign Rodriguez limped beside her, his wounded shoulder roughly jostled by their captors. They were hustled into a nondescript shuttle and whisked away from the docking bay. Through the viewports, David caught glimpses of a changed Earth. Military checkpoints, crowds gathered around public screens, an atmosphere of tension and unrest. The shuttle touched down at a heavily fortified military compound. David and his crew were separated, each led down stark corridors to individual holding cells. The last thing David saw before a blast door slammed shut was the stricken face of his communications officer silently mouthing, "What's happening?" Hours later, guards retrieved David from his cell. They marched him into a dimly lit chamber where a panel of stern-faced officers sat behind a long table. The air was thick with tension. Admiral Johnson, his former ally, now regarded David with cold eyes. "Captain David Webb, you and your crew stand accused of crimes against sentient life, specifically the destruction of the Kralath system and the murder of millions of human colonists." David's blood ran cold. Human colonists? That's impossible. There were no human settlements in that system. "You're wrong, Webb," a gray-haired general spat. "We established a secret colony there years ago. Your actions obliterated it." David's mind reeled. He struggled to form words to make sense of this nightmare. We had no choice. Zorlax was after a doomsday weapon. If he'd gotten his hands on it..." "Silence!" Admiral Johnson hit his fist on the table. "You made an illegal, unilateral decision without consulting high command. The blood of those colonists is on your hands." For hours, David pleaded his case. He explained Crux's warning, the imminent threat Zorlax posed, the impossible choice they faced. But with each passing moment, he saw the unyielding judgment in the tribunal's eyes harden. Finally, Admiral Johnson spoke. "This tribunal finds Captain David Webb and his crew guilty of mass murder and crimes against humanity." The room erupted. David's crew, gathered at the back of the chamber, shouted in disbelief and anger. "This is bullshit," Lieutenant Chen screamed, struggling against her restraints. "We saved billions." But their protests fell on deaf ears. The sentences were read out, each one a hammer blow. Hard labor for the lower ranks, life imprisonment for the officers, and for David. "Captain David Webb, you are hereby sentenced to death by firing squad for the crime of genocide." The words hit David like a physical blow. In that moment, the truth crashed over him with sickening clarity. Crux's final words, spoken in the vault, took on a horrifying new meaning. The Kralath hadn't been trying to stop Zorlax. They'd manipulated David into destroying their own system, along with Earth's secret colony. As the guards dragged him away, David caught a final glimpse of his shattered crew. Their faces were masks of betrayal and despair. He'd led them into this trap, and now they would all pay the price. The cell door slammed shut, leaving David alone with the crushing weight of his actions. He sank to the cold floor, Crux's mocking words echoing in his mind. "Some prices are too high, even for you." In trying to save all of the universe, David had become the very monster he sought to destroy. And as the finality of his fate settled over him, he realized that the Kralath's victory was complete. They had turned Earth's greatest hero into a symbol of shame and shattered humanity's drive from within.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.